Well, good morning, everyone. I'd like to introduce my very favorite biochemist in the world, Rik Deitsch. Love your products. You saved my bacon a few years ago, and forever grateful for that. And the presentation that we had in Vegas just a few days ago, I think that's such a big deal. And kind of revisiting with Dr. Lunke your book and just what toxicity, one more thing that it does about making these new words that we're learning, toxobesity and obesogens, and you look that up, it's actually, those are real words, and
Yes.
we're just right on the kind of the front edge of something that is going to be so big, and we've got the right products at the right time, and just kind of thinking about squirrels getting fat and everything else. Wow. So I'll just turn it over to you because you say it all so well, and hope you have those PowerPoints and everything too. But Rik Deitsch, thanks for coming on.
Well, Dave, thanks for having me. And you're right. This stuff's been around forever. And what we're talking about now is very simply what stops a body from doing what it's supposed to do. The body is an amazing machine that's supposed to heal itself. It's supposed to regenerate. It's supposed to create energy. It's supposed to utilize food to create energy. It's supposed to waste properly. And what gets in the way of all that, and a big chunk of what gets in the way of that, is toxic exposure. And a lot of those toxins are man-made, but some are natural. And what we found more and more often is, what do these toxins do in our body over time? And we found more recently that they can actually increase our risk for obesity. And that's where you have these concept of epigenetics, where there are literally toxins that change our genetic structure through epigenetic changes. And this is something that I got to say, it's hard for me to even talk about, because when I went to school, your genes were your genes were your genes. That's it. Okay. That you had these genes and they were immutable, and you passed these on to your children. And anything that happened to you during your lifetime was not passed on. Okay. So the great example we had, I remember being a freshman in college biology, and said, so if you're in an accident and your arm gets cut off, and then you get married, you have a baby, that baby is not missing an arm. That physical change does not change your DNA, So that's the example they give. The things that happen to you during your life do not change your DNA. Your DNA was you were born with, and that's what you pass on. But now we know that's not true. That as we're exposed to things in our lives, there are epigenetic changes that occur to our DNA, mostly methylation and demethylation, where you actually have a methyl group, CH3, carbon and 3 hydrogens, that attach to parts of your genes. And by doing so, turn certain genes on or certain genes off, or change the way a gene is read so it makes a faulty protein. And that happens to us not only during our lifetime, but we pass it on to our children. And so the first time this was really kind of obvious was, and I talked about this from stage, is Dole bananas. There was a Dole banana plantation in Mexico, and they found that the men that worked there, because of pesticide exposure, had lower sperm rate and motility. And that was bad enough. But if they had sons, their sons that never worked at the banana plantation also had lower sperm rates and motility. So that was passed on to the next of kin. That changed because of toxic exposure. Let's see if I can figure this out.
Hey, while you're doing that, have you heard of Dr. Pottinger?
No.
The Pottinger effect. Well, this is, I think, back in the 1940s or early 50s. This Dr. Pottinger was doing experiments, and it was with cats. And he changed their diets, and he found all these differences that happened, but it was transgenerational. And some of them, by the fifth generation, it degraded so much that they lost the ability to reproduce. And then someone commented that if you look at about World War II onward, we've been doing this vast experience, and the people born today are fifth generation Pottinger cats. And so just that's
Wow.
pretty horrible. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll look into that. And certainly we've seen things where we bred animals or we've bred plants and we've mixed and matched. And so we know that we can breed in certain attributes, but those are really genetic changes, not epigenetic changes. But now there's this paradigm shift where we used to think, and I'm one, I've been accused of this, I've done this, where obesity was a choice. that you chose to not exercise, to eat badly. And it always annoyed me too when someone would say, I've tried everything. Well, that's not true. You couldn't have tried everything, because if you ate less and exercised, you would burn fat, you would lose weight, but it doesn't necessarily mean you'll keep it off, because your body, through epigenetic changes and these things called endocrine disruptors, stop you from burning fat. And you get into a part where I called it from stage, I talked about homeostasis. The body likes to stay the same. So if you're overweight and you try to burn fat, your body actually makes more fat to replace it, which to me is just horrible. Your body's doing that to you. So the whole idea is to have concepts that we can work around that. Okay. So now we know cause of overweight and obesity, just not diet and exercise, but also genetics, and especially epigenetics, changes made not just during your lifetime, but your parents' lifetime that was passed on to you, that make you more liable for insulin resistance, for storing obesity, for storing fat. And then additionally, and we talked about this before, heavy metals and volatile organic compounds, when the body can't get rid of them, it stores it almost always in fat. And we found that fat that has toxins in them is harder to break down. The body protects that fat. And just think about that. There's a reason for that. The body doesn't want those toxins in circulation. So to prevent those toxins from getting back into circulation, it protects those fat cells from breaking down, to keep those toxins away from where it can do damage. So it's a good thing. Your body's trying to protect you from those toxins, but it's bad because it makes sure that you hold onto your fat as well. So I'm not going to go too deep into this. This just kind of shows how everything is very holistic. Everything is connected. So you have ghrelin that's created from your adrenals or from your liver. You have leptin that's created from fat and adipose tissue. These are the hormones that tell you, am I hungry? Am I not hungry? Have I eaten enough? Have I not eaten enough? And it gives those signals to the brain. Another thing that does that is simply the stomach itself. When the stomach gets stretched and feels full, it sends those signals to the brain that says, I'm full, stop eating. And so you feel full, you stop eating. And you can kind of trick that. So first of all, caloric restriction, when you eat less and less, your stomach literally shrinks and becomes easier to fill. So when you're in a diet for a while or just eating sensibly, you're going to find that you used to eat much more to feel full. Now you eat much less and feel full because the stomach has literally shrunk and allowed you to have those receptors turn on. But the problem is that these endocrine disruptors, disrupting chemicals, change that balance, and they block all these different hormones from working. Okay, so by doing so, they change your insulin sensitivity. Now, what does insulin do? The job of insulin is to take sugar from the blood and move it into the cells where it can be used to produce energy. Okay, if you're insulin sensitive, that's an easy process. That energy moves into the cells, it gets utilized, you have tons of energy, and your blood sugar stays stable. When you're insulin resistant, it becomes harder and harder and harder to move that sugar out of the blood and into the cells, so your blood sugar levels stay up. And when your blood sugar levels are high, that's diabetes. And I mentioned this from stage. It's not just having the blood sugars elevated, it's that the blood sugars start to attach to things. That's where it becomes dangerous. That's called glycosylation or glycation. When the sugar attaches to the walls of your blood vessels, that causes narrowing of the blood vessels, claudication, eventually leading to loss of circulation. And you can even start losing fingers, toes, feet, because now you have no circulation and gangrene sets in, they become necrotic, and you start getting amputations. If the sugar attaches to nerves, that causes a diabetic neuropathy. And that can kill the nerves over time. If it attaches to the back of the eye, the retinal, that's diabetic retinopathy, which is the leading cause of adult blindness in the United States. So it's not just having high blood sugars, it's that the sugar starts to attach to things. And so we found, not only can we increase insulin sensitivity through proper diet and supplementation, but we can keep the sugar in circulation. And I've talked about this before, using the zeolite. The negatively charged zeolite will attract heavy metals and volatile organic compounds, But glucose has what they call a dipole moment. It has a slight positive charge on one end and negative charge on the other. And we believe that while the zeolite is in circulation, it can actually keep glucose moving around the body because of that charge difference. And so if the glucose can't attach to things, then it reduces the side effects from diabetes. So it's not just about insulin sensitivity, it's also about keeping that glucose in circulation to prevent diabetic side effects. Oop. Okay, a very sensitive mouse. All right, so this goes to what we want to talk about. We are the first weight loss concept that starts with detoxification. Now, there have been weight loss products before that had diuretics and laxatives in it, and they call that detox, but that's just going to the bathroom. That's not really detox. So we know because of these obesogens, because of these endocrine disruptors, we need to get these heavy metals and volatile organic compounds out of our body. So it starts with the cell defender, the zeolite. The micronized activated zeolite is going to take these heavy metals and volatile organic compounds out of the body. As it takes it out of circulation, the fat will start to leach out the stored toxins. And this is a concept in chemistry, we call it Le Chatelier's principle. It goes back to homeostasis. You want to always balance the equation. And in the body, once the blood and the lymph are cleared of those toxins, you have a concentration gradient where you have no toxins in circulation, but you have all these toxins in the cells. The cells will start to slowly release those toxins over time. So it'll come out of lead will come out of the bone, volatile organic compounds and other heavy metals will come out of the fat as you continue to use a cell defender to reduce your body burden of toxins. So that's the first part of all this. Then I talked about the fiber. We have by far the healthiest fiber supplement in the market. And the whole idea of fiber, and I've said this before, whenever people think of fiber supplementation, they think of going to the bathroom. They just think of bulk forming fiber like Metamucil, like psyllium husk that fills them up and makes them go to the bathroom, increases digestive motility. But I try to say, think about where you get fiber from your diet. It's from vegetables, from fruits, from nuts, beans, legumes, from whole grains, and different fibers do different things. So if you're going to have a fiber supplement, it should be a well-rounded fiber supplement with a bunch of different components that do all the things the fiber is supposed to do. So yes, it improves digestive motility, but also if you take this fiber about 10 to 15 minutes before you eat a meal, it goes in the stomach and it forms a gel fiber matrix, which gives you a nice full feeling so you can choose to eat less. It helps control your diet. As that gel fiber matrix moves in the intestinal tract, it actually traps the food from your diet, the food that you're eating. Now, it doesn't trap it for long because it has no affinity for the food, but it delays gastric emptying. It takes longer for you to absorb your food. Because of that, two things happen. First, you never get a blood sugar spike. Normally, we eat a meal, our blood sugar spikes, we have a ton of energy, and then it crashes and you're exhausted. You feel you get that after food crash. And I talk about this from stage. Anyone that has a desk job, right around 3:34 in the afternoon, you're exhausted. You're hoping it's someone's birthday. There could be a cake in the break room so you can get a sugar rush. Or you've got that candy bar in your bottom right desk drawer. You're going to eat that candy bar to get that afternoon sugar rush because you had this crash because of the sugar spike and then the crash. With this fiber, because it delays gastric emptying, you never get that sugar spike and crash. You just have this nice absorption and then stabilization. And we see that even in diabetics, even people that have poor insulin control or poor glucose control. We see that great blood sugar stabilization. You have tons of energy after your meals and you never have a sugar crash. So that's the first thing. The second thing is you actually get better value from your food. If it takes longer to absorb your nutrients, you're getting better value from that because more can be absorbed over time. Because most nutrients are passively absorbed and the body won't absorb too many things. And so you get better value for your food and you get no blood sugar spike after meals. So that's the first thing. The second thing is bile salts and bile acids are created by the liver. They move into the intestinal tract and help break down your food. They attach your food and break it down. Once they're done, those bile salts and bile acids are reabsorbed into the bloodstream. They go back to the liver and they're used to make new cholesterol. the fiber acts as a bile acid sequestrant. It traps the bile acids, bile salts, and pulls them out of your body. So it actually takes away the raw materials your body uses to make cholesterol, and so your cholesterol goes down. And then through that same mechanism, your triglycerides come down too. Now that's a little more complicated because there's something called cholesterol ester transfer protein that controls triglycerides. But what happens because this mechanism is cholesterol goes down and triglycerides go down. Okay, so you're getting all these extra benefits, and it is a bulk forming fiber. It does actually help with digestive motility. So it also helps you go to the bathroom, which is what all other fibers do. It has all those benefits. And then lastly, we added inulin to it. Inulin is a probiotic. So people that complain they can't eat fiber because it makes them bloated, it makes them gassy, and they don't care if it's a fiber supplement or a bowl of brand cereal, or a brand muffin. Fiber makes them do this. Well, the thing is, it's not the fiber that causes that bloating and gassiness. It's actually fermenting bacteria in your gut that eats the fiber and produces gas as a side product. So you need to get rid of those bad bacteria. You need to get more good bacteria. And inulin is a probiotic. It feeds the good bacteria, defeats the bad bacteria, and it makes it easy to take this fiber. So people tell me, well, I used it and I still got gassy. Well, the first time you use it, the first week or so, you got to balance that bacteria. Give it a little bit of time. It will balance that bacteria, and you're going to find that it's going to be easier and easier, not just to take this product, but to eat any fiber, because now you've dealt with this dysbiosis. You've regulated that gut bacteria. So all in all, the first the cell defender to clear out the toxins, then the Avini fiber, which helps control your appetite, stabilize your blood sugar, stabilize digestion, and then we have the actual weight loss products, which is the Trim Science. Ooh, now I'm going backwards. Oh, I'm going through there we go. Okay.
That does have a hair trigger.
I'm not going to use my mouse anymore. I'm going to use a keyboard. Now we're going to actually go to Trim Science. And this is I talk about this. I take supplementation, the word supplementation, very seriously. I'm never going to tell you, take this pill and eat whatever you want and don't exercise and sit in front of the TV all day and you're going to be healthy and disease free. I'm never going to say that. Supplementation means supplemental to a healthful diet and exercise. First and foremost, you have a God-given piece of equipment you need to take care of. Okay. You need to exercise. You need to eat right. You need to take care of your body as your instrument. Okay. So first and foremost, eat a healthful diet and get plenty of exercise. And, I ask people when they say, I don't have time to exercise, what fits your busy schedule better? Exercising 1 hour a day or being dead 24 hours a day? You can make that decision. And it's been shown that even a brisk walk, 20 minutes a day, this was published in the New England Journal of Medicine, a brisk walk, 20 minutes a day, just to get a little blood circulation, lowers your risk of heart attack and stroke by over 40%. It's something simple, even a little bit every day can make a huge difference. And then people get concerned when I say diet, everyone's scared of diet. Here's a joke, you lose weight from any strict diet, but it's supposed to be water from crying. So strict diets are a problem too. So I say make good choices, and you guys know what that is. Don't have that second dessert. You don't have to eat tons of carbs at night. Logical diets are logical. Avoid fast foods, for example, because fast food is definitely not something that's going to work when you're trying to eat a healthful diet. So how does Trim Science work? I'll go through the basic ingredients. It starts with guarana. Guarana is a natural source of caffeine. And caffeine is an alkaloid that causes what we call in science locomotion. It actually increases your energy in your body, raises your core body temperature, that's called thermogenesis, and helps burn fat because of that. It also actually increases focus as well. So that's the key to fat burning, is the guarana and the caffeine. Now, there's about 125 milligrams of caffeine in the product, which is about a strong cup of coffee, like a Starbucks cup of coffee. Keeping that in mind, people say, well, how much can I take? Well, just think to yourself, if you were a coffee drinker, how much coffee could you drink through the day? Or, for example, a can of Coca-Cola has about 85 milligrams of caffeine. So think about this, is about 1.5 cans of Coke. How many cans of Coca-Cola would you drink in a day? So that can tell you, we usually recommend not using more than 2 or 3 times a day, which would be like 2 or 3 cups of a strong cup of coffee. Then there's citrulline. Citrulline is an amino acid. It promotes blood sugar utilization, increases circulation. And this is true anytime in a diet. And if you see a lot of weight loss products, they'll take things that increase circulation because it moves all those components around so it can be better utilized in the body. Then there's Garcinia cambogia. And this is important because, as I just said, Dave, I talked about homeostasis, that we're burning fat, trying to lose fat. And the body says, well, I'm used to having 20% body fat or 18% body fat. You just burned some fat. I need to make more. And the body starts to biosynthesize fat. It makes more fat because now it thinks that it's out of kilter. So Garcinia cambogia contains something called hydroxycitric acid. Hydroxycitric acid actually blocks the body's biosynthesis of new fat. So we call it a fat blocker, but what it's really doing is blocking our production of fat. So as we're burning fat, it's harder for the body to make new fat. And so you're able to keep that fat off, lose it and keep it off, and reset that homeostasis. As you get thinner and thinner and thinner, as you lose more and more fat, you're going to reset the clock and your body's going to think, okay, I'm not used to 20% body fat. I'm used to 10 or 9 or 8% body fat. Okay, so you're able to reset that clock using something like Garcinia cambogia. Then there's ginseng extract. Ginseng's been used for hundreds and hundreds of years as an adaptogen. It reduces stress, it stabilizes blood sugar, it actually elevates mood. And so this is something great during weight loss. You want these adaptogens to deal with stress, especially as you're dieting and trying to lose weight. This is actually my favorite ingredient, N-acetyl L-carnitine. So L-carnitine is an amino acid, but the acetylated version, the activated version of acetyl L-carnitine, its one job is to drag fat across the mitochondrial membrane into the mitochondria. So I'll just take a step back for people that don't know. The mitochondria are organelles. They're in every cell in your body. And the mitochondria's job is to make energy. It's where oxygen is utilized to produce energy, mostly ATP. So without mitochondria, we can't live in an oxygen-rich environment and we can't produce energy. And the mitochondria needs raw materials for the creation of energy. And what N-acetyl L-carnitine does is it takes fat, drags it into the mitochondria where it literally gets burned to make more energy. So it's a very, very efficient tool to utilize fat for energy. So just my favorite ingredient. Then there's phazolamine. Phazolamine we call a carb blocker, but I'll explain what that means. When we eat carbs, complex carbohydrates, they go into our digestive tract, and there's an enzyme called alpha amylase. Alpha amylase breaks apart the carbs to create simple sugars where they can then be absorbed, and those are the carbs that get into our body that can be used either for energy, and carbs are important for energy. It creates glucose that feeds the brain. It creates muscle glycogen and glucagon in the liver. But too many carbs can turn into fat. The body stores it as fat. And so what phazolamine does is it blocks alpha amylase. So you get less and less carbs broken down in the digestive tract, so less carbs get absorbed from your food. Now, it doesn't mean this is a license to just eat a bunch of ice cream and tons of sandwiches and lots of bread. It's not a license to eat more carbs, but the carbs you're eating, less of the complex carbs will be absorbed because of the phazolamine. So it does help balance that to reduce the carb intake. So the carbs you are taking in, the carbs that do get absorbed, will be used for energy instead of production of fat. Then there's nodo ginseng. Nodo ginseng is another adaptogen related to ginseng, but a different plant. But the coolest thing about nodo ginseng is it actually changes the way we store fat. It manages fat burning and it manages fat production, and it makes healthier fat in the body, fat that can be better utilized. Cool. Then there's muciniprurians. Muciniprurians is another adaptogenic product. It's a natural bean, and it raises levels of dopamine and serotonin, which gives us a nice healthy feeling. It's antidepressive, but it actually promotes satiety and appetite suppression. So when we're feeling happy, we're less hungry. We don't need to eat as much. And this is true because there's a concept called reward deficiency. Some of us reward ourselves with food. That's a reward. So we think, oh, I deserve that candy bar. I deserve that pizza, and that's called reward deficiency syndrome. And raising these levels of dopamine and serotonin satisfies that need for reward and allows us to make better choices. And so we can choose, yeah, I might deserve the ice cream, but I don't need it, and choose not to eat the ice cream. Then there's green tea extract, which is used in most weight loss products because it does have some caffeine, and it also has theophylline, which is another stimulant, but it's very high in ECGC, epigallocatechin gallate. Oh, I have a typo. Yeah, epigallocatechin gallate. It should be EGCG. But epigallocatechin gallate is a very powerful antioxidant. This is important. Whenever we're metabolically active, we create free radicals. And so the more energetic we are as we're burning fat, we're actually creating free radicals, which could be bad. So we want to make sure we're taking antioxidants during any diet to try to stop that up and reduce free radical damage or free radical cascades. And so the ECGC does this in this formula. And then there's GABA. Gamma aminobutyric acid is actually an anti-sympathetic molecule that prevents overstimulation of the sympathetic nervous system, which is what makes you jittery when you drink coffee or when you take a stimulant. And so this is the anti-jittery. So you're able to take a stimulant, take all these products, and not get all jangled, So it's really very, very efficient. Some people say, well, I used your product and I didn't feel it. I'm like, what do you mean you didn't feel it? Well, I've used other products like this and I get all, jittery and jangly. And so, well, is that a good feeling? Is that something you want to feel? This is going to give you all the energy and all the focus and all the weight loss components, and all the satiety without feeling nervous, without feeling jittery. So I think that's a real positive. And then, of course, this is the only weight loss product in the world that has mind micronized and activated zeolite. And this is really important as well, because not only are we taking the cell defender to clean out the toxins of volatile organic compounds, but by taking the zeolite in the formulation, it's becoming a nutritional enabler, reducing competition with other things to take up in the digestive tract, and cleaning out the digestive tract as you utilize it. So the zeolite makes this more effective within the product. And then we have lion's mane mushroom, which I like the picture because it just looks really cool. That's a mushroom, but it kind of looks like a tribble from Star Trek, But it is a great mushroom that's antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, and has been shown to help stabilize blood sugar levels. Again, something we really want to do when we're dieting is to make sure that the blood sugar we have is utilized correctly. And then lastly, there's a very little amount of this, but there's brivascapine. And brivascapine it has been used in weight loss, again, to promote circulation, just like citrulline, but it does it very, very well. And by promoting healthy circulation, promotes better oxygen utilization through the whole body and into the brain, so it promotes focus. So this is another thing that when we're losing weight, we want to feel good, we want to be happy, we want to make good choices, and brivascapine helps us do that. So just to round it all out, there are the adaptogens, which actually keep us happy and focused, and they're anti-sympathetic, so it helps relax us. There's fat burners with caffeine and theophylline. That's the guarana and the green tea that burns fat. There's Garcinia cambogia that prevents us from making new fat. There's phazolamine, which actually prevents us from absorbing too many carbs. And then, like I said, the only product out there that focuses on detoxification first and contains the micronized and activated zeolite. So it is available in every one of these has the same blend. The chocolate, so it's hot cocoa, Dutch cocoa, coffee, and matcha tea. They have the same components at the same amounts. Your choice is just what flavor do you want? Do you want coffee, tea, or cocoa? So here I'm going to. Oh, it automatically stops the screen share?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. So now we can get back to here. And Chip has joined us. So the thing I really want to stress is that we're not a weight loss company. We're a detox company. But we have found that toxins increase our risk for obesity through obesogenics and epigenetics. And so let's have products that focus on that as well. As we detox, as we clean out the body, and a cleaner, healthier body fixes itself, part of that is to reduce our overall obesity, decrease our overweight and obesity, lower our BMI, but also just make us overall healthier so we can live a longer, happier, healthier life.
An optimum new reset of our homeostasis.
Reset homeostasis, so it's at healthier levels, stuff that you want.
Yeah, that's amazing. What kind of feedback are we getting so far? I think people are buying it again. It's pretty new, but
Well, the biggest problem is that we had an outside manufacturer, so we've been back order on pretty much everything. We are bringing that in-house over the next 2 weeks. We'll be producing it ourselves. We're getting all the raws in and everything, but we just I don't want to throw Neil under the bus, but Neil is always, I want it next Wednesday. I want it in 5 days. And what happens is we rush to it, and when we keep everything in house, we've been able to rise to the occasion, but we can't have other people rise to the occasion. And so we have had pretty much everyone that ordered it to begin with in January, February has reordered it. People love the product. We're getting great results. I'm down 17 pounds now from when I started, and I'm not doing anything extraordinary. I'm just too busy to do anything extraordinary. I've not worked out, although I did run a 5K a couple of weeks ago. It's the first 5K ever. To say I ran it is way too kind. I got through it. I survived, but I'm just not in the shape I was obviously when I was younger. But I did manage to do a 5K, which I haven't been able to do in a really long time. And I feel more energy. I feel more focus, which is dangerous for me because I've got a lot of focus. But I have found for me the product that the biggest thing for me with the product is when I take it in the morning, when I drink that cup of coffee in the morning, I am not hungry all day. So it's a struggle for me. Right around 1 o'clock, my wife reminds me to eat lunch because I'm just not hungry. So that satiety part is really, really powerful. And we hear that from a lot of people. They have much better control of their diets.
One of the things I've noticed over the couple of years I've worked with you is just the overall proof and concept is that people get on just the detox product, our cell defender, and that alone, all of a sudden, just not consciously thinking or working toward it, they just spontaneously start losing some more weight. So I think that's an overall really cool idea. So
yeah, that's what started all of this. I launched my first zeolite product in 2004, 2005. And by 2007, people called me and said, Rik, I'm not doing anything else. I'm just taking your product. I'm losing weight. And we started saying, what's happening here? Is it, we know that taking a lot of the zeolite, as you lose electrolytes, the heavy metals, you can lose some water weight. So I said, well, maybe it's just water weight, but no, this was consistent weight. People are losing fat. And that's when we did our in vitro analysis in 2009, where we actually tried to burn fat with heavy metals or burn fat without heavy metals. And we found that the fat cells that had heavy metals in it would not, that you couldn't put them through lipolysis. You couldn't burn those in a bomb calorimeter to create energy. They were protecting themselves. They had all these protections so the fat wouldn't burn because it didn't want to release those toxins. So we thought that was fascinating, and it makes perfect sense. The body is trying to protect itself by not releasing these toxins into circulation. But that leads to the next step, which if I detoxify and I remove these toxins, is that fat now more labile? Is it easier to break down? And the answer is yes. So as we remove those toxins slowly, more and more of the fat burned. And so it became easier to lose weight. So the first step for any healthy weight loss should be detoxification.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. When I think probably all of us, when we first kind of think about biology and it's just this math of eat more calories than you're burning, you're going to gain fat, and vice versa, and that fat is just some ballast that's fairly inert that you're just kind of carrying around, and your body will burn it. But it's actually biologically really, really active and does all kinds of things, and this toxicity stuff just exacerbates all of those bad things that the fat is working against you. So
yeah, we can't even take it another step because most hormones are regulated by our fat content. And so when you think about how people, as they gain weight, can be more androgynous, men have too much estrogen, women could have too much testosterone. And that's entirely because of too much fat and the toxins in the fat. And so that hormone balance is key. Well, fat loss and lean muscle mass is key to hormone balance as well. And now these guys are so worried about their testosterone levels. Well, the first thing you do is try to burn some fat. Try to lose the weight, try to eat healthy, and those testosterone levels will start to regulate just by themselves.
Oh, that's fascinating. I don't know if you want to talk about your buddy Stuart Lemke, fascinating guy that he uses all of those big words just as easily as you do.
Stuart is brilliant. He's been on my board of directors for over 20 years. Dr. Stuart Lemke. He's triple board certified. His primary practice is pulmonology. And I can ask a simple question: how busy do you think a lung doctor is in Los Angeles? The land of the smog. So he's an internist, a pulmonologist, and a thoracic surgeon. But we wrote the book Invisible Killers together back in 2008. And if you'll read the book, the first 5 chapters are really just what is the problem? Where do these toxins come from? How do they affect us? And he is more holistic. He talks about general medicine, what these toxins are doing to you. And then I'm a reductionist. I say biochemically, what is happening, inhibition of zinc finger protein metabolism and ATP, things like that. So it was a really great kind of mix between the two of us. And then the last 3 chapters are what do you do about it? How can you avoid toxic exposure? How can you mitigate the risk as you get exposed? And then how to actively detoxify? And that led right to the concept of using the zeolites, especially an activated micronized zeolite like we had. I will say that I was disappointed in the book because it really is too esoteric. We just kept writing, trying to put as much as we could in the book. And it reads like a textbook. And in fact, that's how it was used. Invisible Killers was used as a textbook in college environmental courses all over the country. They utilized our book. But we wanted to make it more narrative. And that's what Stuart's doing now. Stuart's writing his new book, which just has working titles now. But it's really very narrative. It's trying to teach people something through telling stories. And Stuart does tell some great stories. Like one of my favorites is he had a patient, a woman that had secondary infertility. So for people that don't know what that means, it means that she had a normal pregnancy and a normal childbirth. She everything works between her and her husband. And then she had a series of miscarriages, I think 4 miscarriages in 2 years. So we know that everything works. So why now is she infertile? What's going on now? And so she had seen a bunch of obstetricians and different doctors, went to Stuart as an internist, and he found out she had lead poisoning. So what happened is between the first pregnancy and the subsequent miscarriages, they'd moved to the suburbs of Los Angeles, to Woodland Hills, and they had a beautiful little house in the suburbs, and they made a garden out back. And she was growing her own fruits and vegetables, not knowing that that area had previously been all industrial. There had been factories there. And because the land was zoned residential, you're not required to do soil samples when you sell the property. And so they didn't know that there was all this lead in their soil, and that they're growing fruits and vegetables in this lead soil that just sucked up all the lead. And so they thought they were eating healthy, and they were actually poisoning themselves. So he wound up using a cell defender to chelate her to remove the lead. And within 6 months, she got pregnant, had a normal pregnancy, normal childbirth, simply because she was removing those heavy metals. So that's a nice narration, a nice story that says how something that we don't even think about could have such far-reaching effects on our lives. If she hadn't heard about that, the lead itself would cause all sorts of damage over the years, but certainly they wouldn't have had their son that they have now. And it's certainly a blessing. The other lesson there is, if you want to grow fruits and vegetables, if you want to have a garden, have your soil tested. It costs $50 to have your soil tested. And if you don't want to do that, build a box and put new topsoil in and grow with new soil that doesn't have heavy metals in it, because you never know what's in that ground or what was there before you.
Wow. Hey, Chip Littlejohn, you've been in the zeolite business for a long time. What's your thoughts on this? I'd like you to have a little comment.
Oh, well, it's wonderful to listen to you two together. And I was just thinking what's happening to our vocabulary as we listen to the conversation. I was just circling all the new words that are in here. But I thought, okay, what could I do to add to the call that might be helpful? I do love both of you guys, the way that you speak, because you feed the person who wants the details, and you feed the person who wants to be able to understand it and use it in a conversation in a short time. And I actually chose 2 words to kind of highlight about what Rik just said. And one of them is just simply stuck, and the other one is selectivity. And so really what we're looking at, the brilliance really of this entire product line to me is selectivity. The bad metals leave, the good ones are kept. The dangerous things living within us are killed, and us and our microbiome are kept. The sugar keeps on moving instead of getting stuck someplace. The other word was going to be stuck. And so anything that gets stuck and quits moving in a living organism becomes a problem. Even the biologically beneficial metals, if they get stuck and start building up, and you've heard Rik talk about accumulation of iron and how it begins to move properly. And he talked about the sugar having a dipole moment, so it gets picked up and spun and moved on. And I've kind of thought that's something we maybe don't highlight as much as we could, is getting things moving. You think about just simple things like calcium metabolism. Calcium, if it gets stuck someplace and starts piling up, it becomes a problem. So those were the 2 words that I wanted to highlight from what I was hearing this morning. One of them is stuck. Anything that's stuck becomes a problem. And the other one is selectivity. And you can pretty much go to any one of our products, and he really got into selectivity when he started talking about trim science, because some things are allowed and encouraged and other things are discouraged or blocked. And so that selectivity between having the good fats be made and converting to the good fats and having them move into the mitochondria, choosing to do that with the ingredients in the product is really, really interesting to me, that selectivity. And then what's left behind, you're less likely to make the damaging accumulating type fats. And so I really think just those 2 words are interesting. And I always get a kick out, I have to say this for a minute because Dave's our host today. I always get a kick out of Dave, monitoring one of these conversations. I've watched over the years, and the guest speaker will maybe stumble on a word. It's happened to me, and he instantly fills it in. Today, what we got from Dave was the Pottinger cats. And so there's always a brilliant little ad from Dave, and he actually knows all this stuff and says it just as well as anybody else does. But it's brilliant to be able to have Rik come on as a guest and add such stature to it. I wanted to point out one other thing from the conversation today. If you listen to Rik introduce Dr. Lonke or speak about him on this call today, it's the exact formula for introducing your A in a 3-way call. This is my friend for many years. This is a brilliant guy. I love this guy. I write books with this guy. He's a little bit different than me, and he's a little bit more detailed. I'm whatever it was that Rik said, he's more elemental or breaks things down in a different way. But I thought the way that he elevated Dr. Lonke in his introduction was a perfect example of how you introduce somebody in a 3-way call. This is my friend for many years, whose opinion I respect. So anyway, those are just a couple of things I picked up, Dave.
That's fabulous. I will say this, you talk about sticking. So I know you love this whole concept of adhesion molecules and that stuff in the Zemunity, the mushrooms are anti-adhesion. So they prevent bacteria from sticking, which is one of the ways that Zemunity works. But you also mentioned calcium magnesium, which I'm fascinated by. So people know what gout is. Okay, so gout is normal gout is a buildup of uric acid crystals. And that's from, in essence, too much protein or too much types of bad protein. And what happens is uric crystals build up because of gravity, they migrate down to your feet. And then because these crystals are now forming in your feet, they draw water to them to try to hydrolyze them, to try to break down. And you wind up with swollen feet, swollen toes, and it's very, very painful. But what a lot of people don't know is as much as 40% of all gout is actually pseudo gout. It's not uric acid crystals, it's calcium crystals. And exactly what Chip said is that calcium moves around the body. And the way it moves around the body is it's very fascinating. There's these proteins called calcium binding proteins, and part of the protein looks like a hand. It's really very fascinating. It's a hand that has a -2 charge, and it grabs the calcium and it moves around the body. That hand is actually called an EF hand. So all calcium binding proteins have a section of the protein called an EF hand that grabs the calcium, moves it around. Now, magnesium also has a +2 charge, and EF hands can grab magnesium as well, but it has a more affinity for calcium than magnesium. And the way calcium and magnesium get moved around the body is an EF hand grabs a calcium, will shuttle around the body till it gets to an area that's high in magnesium, and it drops off the calcium and picks up the magnesium. And it does that over and over and over again. That deposits and moves calcium, magnesium all over our body, where it's used for all sorts of things. Magnesium is used as a neurotransmitter, so is calcium. Calcium is used for teeth and bones and deposition. Magnesium is used in a lot of production of ATP for energy. So you need magnesium if you're going to have any energy storage in the body. So they're utilized all over the place. But if you have too little magnesium, the calcium starts building up and form calcium crystals in the body. And just like those uric salt crystals will migrate down to your feet and collect water. But with pseudo gout, all you really need is a decent magnesium supplement. 400 milligrams of magnesium a day, magnesium like magnesium malate or magnesium citrate, like a good acidic magnesium, and it goes away. So people tell me, I've had gout for years and years, and I give a magnesium supplement, and within a week, their gout is gone. Well, it wasn't gout, it was pseudo gout. So people should realize that unless the doctor's actually testing them for uric salts and uric crystals, you should assume that it's probably pseudo gout. Start taking the magnesium and see if that fixes it. Take the magnesium, drink plenty of water to flush everything through the system. So the other thing too is when you have gout, you're on a drug called allopurinol, which reduces purines in the body and reduces the production of uric crystals. If you don't have gout, that's a dangerous drug to be on. So it's not a very safe drug. You should only take it if you have gout. So if you have pseudo gout and you're taking allopurinol, you have all the side effects from the allopurinol. All right, I know that's off topic, but Chip got me started.
I'm just thinking almost everyone's low on magnesium, and you can't really store it. So you just take it all the time. It does so many good things. So yeah.
Okay, I'm just looking at the Q&A, see if there's any questions for me.
Oh, while you're looking, just one of my thoughts that just is kind of scary, especially getting older, is of all the things I'd miss most would be my mind, and just hearing this new term that's coming out, it's type 3 diabetes, and where the brain actually can become sugar resistant, and that's kind of a creepy thought. So, wow.
Yes.
Let's keep the sugar moving.
Well, that goes hand in hand with metabolic syndrome, where it's diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure, all these things working together. It's kind of a triple threat that greatly increases risk for heart attack and stroke. So you have to watch it. And a lot of it starts with obesity, because if you have too much fat, you become insulin resistant, which leads to diabetes. And then that all leads to heart disease, atherosclerosis, and arteriosclerosis, and high blood pressure. So everything kind of goes hand in hand. So if we're eating healthy, if we're exercising, and we're doing something to reduce our BMI, to reduce our body fat, all of that starts to stabilize.
In other words, coming out as skinny fat, we're metabolically, you're fat even though you look thinner, and then that non-alcoholic fatty liver disorder thing too is that's the scary thing that's becoming epidemic. So we're at the right place at the right time with all of these things.
Okay, so someone asked about the $99 credit for attending the conference. I have no idea. That's a Heath question. So if you just want to write, what is it, support at Avini Health? Or
I think that was just automatically added to your points. I think that was just giving them points.
Yeah, I think that should be automatic. If someone has a significant amount of weight to lose, should they be on the Marcy dose? I love they call it the Marcy dose. so when I recommend for pretty much everybody to take the detox dose of 10 drops 4 times a day when they first start the product, and then to lower to 10 drops twice a day after the first month. That's for the generally healthy public. But if you know that you have a huge exposure to toxins, if you worked in a factory, if you live in an inner city, you can certainly take more. There's no such thing as an upper dose of Cell Defender. It's not going to hurt you. But the whole idea is to get the most bang for your buck. So I say never take more than 15 drops at a time, because once you get to that concentration, less gets absorbed as a function of percent. And so 10 to 15 drops at any one time. But I got to tell you, it's most effective when you take less more often than more less times. So when we talk about the Marcy dose, I believe that's 10 drops every waking hour, right, Chip? Yeah.
Yes, 10. And now with your new improvements, we say 5 or 10.
Yeah, 5 to 10. That's great. Yeah, 5 to 10 drops every hour. When you ever think about it, take a few drops. That's not going to hurt you. Just drink plenty of water, because it can lead to mild dehydration. So anyone that says your product gave me a headache or cramping, that's dehydration. Make sure you're drinking plenty of water. I don't know if taking that super dose is indicated for weight loss, because weight loss is more of a consistent thing than attacking toxins right now. So I would probably stick to exactly what I said. 10 drops 4 times a day is the detox dose. 10 drops twice a day is the maintenance dose for the general people as they start using the products. Also understand that Trim Science is going to be an introduction to a lot of people. Detox didn't really excite people to begin with. If you're trying to attract especially a younger demographic, but weight loss attracts everybody, especially if you're losing weight. Everyone says, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? I want to do it too. And so as we attract those people, we want to make it easier and easier and easier for them to use the product. So start thinking about compliance. Taking the Trim Science products once or twice a day is probably very simple. Taking the fiber once or twice a day. But when you start telling them to take these drops every hour on the hour, it becomes a little harder and less compliant. So try to think, what's the easiest way I can get people on these products to get the most benefit possible. Okay.
I did have something that I thought I maybe could add to the Marcy dose thing so people understand. When she came up with that, she thought that she was in a very limited lifespan. And so she thought, if I only have a little bit of time, I want to do the best I can to make the most use of it. And even Rik told her to do the medical intervention along with his natural products, and she still wouldn't do it. She was so fearful of what would happen, what we'd seen with the other family members who did, chemo and radiation. And when they died, it was a blessing because of the effects of the illness. She came to the conclusion that maybe the natural progression of the disease would be more desirable than the, than the treatments. And so that kind of thing was in her brain. And even Rik encouraged her to do both together. But when she started doing it, she thought, okay, I need to make the very most use of the time I've got. And so I actually added this to my languaging yesterday. She was like a girl walking through the desert, and every time she found a little bit of water, she wanted to top off her canteen, or somebody driving, and they didn't know if there was another gas station. She just kept topping it off, topping it off, topping it off, so that she always had the ultimate amount of the natural products within her at any given time. And that led to the frequency of using what we now is immunity, and the frequency of using what is now Avini Cell Defender. So that concept, or that languaging for me, I just added this yesterday. She just thought, I'm going to keep it topped off. And so she started doing that. Well, 2 things happened. Number one, she had a success. So she told the story. She took on the responsibility of a survivor and told that story over and over and over again, which led to people, like Dave. What did Dave do? He did what Marcy did, because he heard that Marcy succeeded. And the other thing I have to admit, and I probably got to get a little smile out of Rik. He's already smiling because he knows what the Marcy dose does to volume for his product. It doesn't hurt at all. And we want people to use these products. And it is my belief that with all of these products, they are prepared and tested to do what they do at the amounts that are recommended. But my suspicion is always that there might be additional frequency, consistency, and dose-related benefits. And if you go looking for those, you might come across additional benefits. And so that's kind of one of the things I get a kick out of, is looking for additional benefits from frequency, consistency over time, and not so much from how much at one time, but those concepts, frequency, consistency over time, and then extending the time period, I think are really, really important to get the biggest benefits from these products.
I've always thought if you can do it, you look on the label, 10 drops twice a day. It seems to me going along with that consistency would be 5 drops 4 times a day. And then, of course, like when I was doing the Marcy dose 5 years ago, it was an earlier version. And when we got the new version, I could feel it in my mouth. I could tell it was better. And so I kind of suspect maybe it might be better, more than twice as good. So maybe 5 drops instead of 10, because it's obviously better. But then I'm thinking, if you got a problem, you don't want to be thinking, well, this will be cheaper if I do this. If you got, you've got those bad things floating around, you think, I want to get them all. So I want to have plenty in there. And so I love the kind of the term, and especially in the context of Cell Defender, that some is good, more is better, and too much is just right.
Well, I always try to keep first and foremost, what's going to do the best for people's health. Okay, how am I going to help people? And then secondly, I believe in this concept of the best bang for your buck. I don't like people throwing money away if they don't have to, So I say, what's the best bang for your buck if you're doing this? That would be smaller doses more often. Of course, when Chip talks about sales and how many, we had people at a previous company that called the diamond dose. They said the diamond dose is you fill your bathtub with this stuff. And you'll go diamond right away. All right, let's look at some of these questions really quick. So I already said, what's the recommended amount to use for the day? I did that. So someone says at the summit, I mentioned reverse chelation. I don't think I've ever said reverse chelation. So I don't know what they heard.
It was Dr. Lonke that said that. He actually had it on one of his slides, and it kind of caught my attention. And when I looked at it, I thought, what I was picking up was that you were the only one who figured out how to flip around the
purifying, getting the bad stuff out of the zeolite in the first place. Is that it?
That's what I was thinking.
Okay, yeah, I guess that makes sense. I mean, it's not truly reverse chelation because that would be charge specific. But we did figure out, and all my stuff really came from stuff that was done in the oil and gas industry, where they made synthetic zeolites to act as molecular sieves to clean out natural gas and oil. And then they would have to tweak the zeolite to either get things in or out of it and then clean those out before they use them again. And so you looked at a myriad of different ways to remove different things. And some things we were really good at, like mercury, lead, arsenic, cadmium, we get out right away. But Chip, you remember when I couldn't get iron out of the product, we had some product with iron in it. So we added a magnetic filtration step because iron is easily removed through magnetism. So, and some people like that, especially people from Nikin, because now I'm magnetizing the solution. So, but that's just part of the process now to remove the iron is I have to basically use magnetic filtration. So we've learned.
Probably would have been better to say that you figured out how to run the cation exchange backwards. Would have been more accurate. But I did notice that when he put it up on the slide, and of course he's not around us all the time, so he has a little bit different languaging, and it jumped out at me because I hadn't seen anybody say that before, and so I mentioned it Wednesday when I was kind of reviewing the conference. But
my fear when you say reverse chelation is we're putting things into something instead of taking them out, because chelation means to grab. It literally means to grab. So I say reverse chelation is we're releasing things and grabbing things, but in this case we're forcing things out of the zeolite cage that have a high affinity for the cage, which is hard to do because zeolite loves to hold on to these things. So it takes heat, it takes certain natural acids, it takes time, it takes in some cases centrifugation, it's some pressure, but the whole idea is to remove all these toxins that are in it to make the most room in the cage that we can.
I guess the flip side of that is you're forcing a tiny little bit of calcium and magnesium in there that it doesn't want. And that would be, I mean, you're making water run uphill, and nobody knows how you're
exactly
doing
it.
And don't tell. I'm not going to ask you how you do it. I don't need all the details. And don't tell anybody.
I won't. Well, and that's the thing too that Neil tried to say from stage is I did have a federal lawsuit where people were claiming they were using my process. They weren't. In fact, the judge under something called in camera, the judge could review all my secrets, and I showed basically exactly how I make the product. And then the guy who I taught how to make the product, when I licensed this to another company, he had his process, which cut out about 30 steps. And the judge rightly said, it looks like what you do is Deitsch light.
So I got to ask you, the word that the judge used to get you to reveal it to him, what was that legal term?
In camera?
In camera.
Yeah.
So you have to reveal it to the judge. And so the judge
in camera says, I've got something incredibly secret. The judge has to review whether or not it's viable. So the judge gets to see it.
Could you spell that word?
The word camera, like a picture camera?
Oh, in camera.
In camera. Yeah. That basically means only the judge and her people can take a look at it because they have to review it. They have to be able to review it, but they know it's secret. They know it can't be released. It can't be part of the docket. It can't go into the, because most stuff in a federal trial is public information. It's all released. And in fact, the other side did that. The other side actually published it in an effort to say, well, it's published now, it's no longer a trade secret. But they were the ones that published it. So we had it removed right away. We had to take it down right away.
So that's the next piece of the puzzle, I think, that we never, ever have heard anybody say. And that is, even those who know how to do it, who helped you to do it along the way, working in the lab beside you, it seems like there's such a strong urgency in their mind or something to make them cut corners, or they're not willing to do the work. Even if they know how to do it, nobody's willing to set up the lab and do the work to actually make it. That, to me, that's maybe a bigger barrier than the knowledge.
Well, it is labor intensive, and I hate to say this as a scientist, but there's a lot of art. It's not just science. There's a lot of art to it because there's every sort of thing can happen depending on which toxins are coming out, which volatiles, which heavy metals. And when that happens, you need really good chemistry knowledge, you know, what to do next, you know?
So you're reading and reacting along this whole process over 4 days, 30 some steps, you're reading and reacting. And so truly, if someone's wanting to imitate, and this is the language I use, Rik, I say that they're attempting to imitate something they don't understand. It's like a Aboriginal man seeing a UFO and carving one out of a rock. It's not the same thing.
That's quite a leap, but yeah. I will say this, there's a lot of chemistry involved. There's a lot of basic knowledge of how this stuff works. And it was hard learned over the years. You know, we put lots and lots of money and lots of time into it. And that other guy, you know, didn't even understand why we did stuff. Like when the judge asked him, well, why do you heat the solution? He goes, well, that kills the bugs. No, it's got nothing to do with killing the bugs. Heating solution increases the bond size, the bond length of the zeolite cage slightly, so it actually increases cationic exchange. So he had no understanding of the basic chemistry. And then a lot of manufacturers are pretty lazy. They don't want to do anything that's labor intensive. They want to do something you can do quick and make money on it. And of course, that previous company's management loved it because it was a cheaper product.
Oh, you mean something like putting the word zeolite on a bottle and acting like it's the same thing?
Yep. Over and over again. And the thing that annoys me the most is when people ask me to basically review other products. You know, I say, just remember, I'm the category creator. I wrote the book on this stuff. I've defended the trade secret in federal court as a protectable trade secret. And these people are basically knocking me off. And the proof is in the pudding, because if you read their websites, they take a long time to say why my stuff doesn't work. They bash me specifically and bash my product specifically. And then if you look up scientific support for their product, it's my marketing materials, my content, it's my published studies, you know? So how can they bash me and then use all my stuff to support their inferior products? So that's the easiest thing to look at. And then I talked about that one company that says, my products, his product is only micronized. Ours is nano sized, you know, so it's nano, so it's better. And I said, well, just the use of a prefix is ridiculous. You know, I can say I'm nano sized. I'm 21 trillion nanometers tall, you know, the prefix doesn't mean anything, you know. but they say that their zeolite cages are 0.9 nanometers across. And I showed you a picture of the zeolite. One cage is 4.2 by 7.4 nanometers. So one pore in the cage. So if it's 0.9 nanometers, it barely fits one hole. How is that a cage if it barely fits one hole of the cage? You know, if you see ours, our 1 micron cages have on every side over 15,000 holes on each side, you know, so it's plenty of spaces to pull in toxins and get them trapped. So it just means that they don't even understand the very basic chemistry of what a zeolite even looks like for them to say something like that.
So whenever Dave is the host, he always milks just a little bit more out of the guest than anybody else does. That's part of the magic of Dave Johnson. And so I hope everybody, if you weren't here, you did miss something. And I hope that you heard it both simplified and also in detail if that's what you need to be fit. So you don't have to know all the details, but if you have to go to just the word stuck and selectivity, it's there. And I love the way that both of these guys present, because you get both, no matter whether you're a scientist or you're a lay person wanting to go tell somebody, you got fed today.
Yeah, I know we went over, but you want me to hit these questions really quick? Or
Go for it.
Okay, so someone just asked about how expensive my book is. It's not me selling the book. We sold it for $29. So it's been out of print since 2010. So someone says the book's $300. Is there a cheaper version? I did talk to Neil because I obviously have a PDF of my own book. We also have a PDF of something called the Invisible Killers Basics that we sold through Sound Concepts years ago. So I'm going to modernize that. We're going to make that available in the back office. So it's basically the basics of all this stuff in about 40 pages. So we should have that in the back office the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, the Reader's Digest version sounds the best.
Someone asked what the difference is between N-acetyl L-carnitine and N-acetylcysteine. Very, very different. They're different amino acids, do completely different things. So it's, people get confused because something sounds a little alike, but carnitine and cysteine are very different molecules and do completely different things. Trim Science, she became... Oh, so someone said they had constipation on Trim Science. Well, certainly if you have constipation of the fiber or in Trim Science, it's probably completely water. Just make sure they're drinking plenty of water. And then what did they eat? Did they eat when they took it? Did they not eat when they took it? The fact is caffeine itself is a laxative. So if you're taking the fiber and you're taking the Trim Science and you're drinking water, you should definitely not be constipated. If she is, there's something else going on. And she should certainly continue to take the product to try and clean herself out. So someone asked about parasites. I've talked about that before, where the zeolite removes toxins and heavy metals. It doesn't remove giant things like spores and protists and parasites and fungus, but a cleaner, healthier body does. And so what we've seen over time is as you use the cell defender, as you use the zeolite, your body is going to get cleaner and healthier and function better and detox better. But part of that also is stabilizing pH. As pH comes up to more alkaline levels, around 7.4, which is physiologic pH, it's a very bad environment for the growth of bacteria and growth of viruses, and also the growth of protists and yeast. And so what happens is they get out of the body. So some people come to me, and if you heard Doug Dickey on stage talked about when he used the product, he broke out with pimples all over and he had like white skin, and that was all this stuff getting out of his body, leaving his body. If you have a yeast infection, you take the product, invariably women will wind up with a vaginal yeast infection, men will have oral thrush, and that's because the yeast has no place to go. It's kind of trying to get to where it can still live, and the only acidic places left in the body are the vaginal tract and the mouth. And so that you can just continue to take the product, or you can use something like Lotrimin to deal with an oral thrush or yeast infection, and that'll get rid of it. But that's a good thing. That means all this stuff, you had a systemic infection that's now getting out. You're getting it out of the body. And then additionally, we have the nanosilver, whereas the zeolite takes out all the non-living things, the volatile organic compounds, the heavy metals. The nanosilver attacks the living stuff that doesn't belong there, the bacteria, the viruses, the protists, things like that. So you can certainly add nanosilver to your daily regimen if that's an issue. Okay, so it's really weird. I told Dave today, I just got contacts this morning, and that's why my eyes look bloodshot. I've never worn contacts in my life, But now what I'm learning is I can't read with the contacts. I can see, but I guess I need to get reading glasses to go with my contacts. I could drive with them, which was great. Can you read that one from Ben? What are your thoughts on using HTMA to diagnose health issues? To tell you the truth, I don't know what that is, what HTMA is. So I'm going to skip that. Maybe we'll answer it on a later call. You look great, Rik. Can tell you're losing weight. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm down 17 pounds since we started, but I have 15 pounds more to go. And so next time you see me, I'll be even thinner. I'm melting away. So let's see. My husband has real gout. He's stopped his meds. Think you Cell Defender will help. Well, if you actually have gout, the biggest deal is your diet. Just go online, type gout diet, avoid those things that lead to your crystal formation. That's the biggest thing. And drink plenty of water. I know it sounds counterintuitive because gout is actually water that builds in your feet, but drinking plenty of water will flush these things through your system. So stick to a gout diet, drink plenty of water, use the zeolite, but I do recommend using allopurinol at least to prevent a gout attack until you can make sure you're stabilized. You have a period of time where you don't have a gout attack. If you do have a gout attack, you actually stop using allopurinol and use something called colchicine. Colchicine is a really, really strong diuretic. So it dries fluid out, so it shrinks your feet when you're having a painful gout attack. But you can't use colchicine when you're not having a gout attack because it causes a gout attack. And you can't use allopurinol when you're having a gout attack because that'll make it worse. So you have to use allopurinol for prevention and colchicine in treatment. But yeah, stick to a gout diet, drink plenty of water, take the Cell Defender, and hopefully over time you can stabilize that, especially if you're eating the right diet. Does trim science help with memory loss? That's a great question. It really depends on what the cause of memory loss is, but there are neurotransmitters and things that function to increase neurotransmission in the brain. Things like the brivascapine and the mucunapurines raises L-dopamine, raises serotonin. So yes, you should be more focused and have better memory when you're taking the trim science.
Cell Defender certainly is great for your brain too. I mean, so many people get better memory from
perhaps even
Cell
the
Defender.
fiber because of the brain-gut connection and the bacteria that make most of the neurotransmitters and good things too. So
then someone asked about gaining weight, which is, these are the people we don't want to talk about. So yes, there are people that are naturally thin, have a high metabolism, need to gain weight. In that case, I do recommend a high protein diet. You especially want proteins that are high in branched chain amino acids, BCAAs, which are anti-catabolic and help lay down lean muscle mass. So just go and find a decent protein powder, protein shake that's high in BCAAs, and that'll be great for muscle gain and weight gain over time. Will Cell Defender help with colon issues like diverticulitis? So diverticulitis is inflammation of the diverticuli. For people that don't know this, if you look at your intestinal tract, it's not a smooth hose. It's got all these little pockets, that millions and millions of these little pockets called diverticuli that greatly increases the surface area of your intestinal tract to allow you to absorb nutrients. If something gets stuck in the diverticuli, like a little seed or something from a strawberry, it can cause inflammation. It irritates the diverticuli. That causes irritation, which is diverticulitis, which can be really painful. And if it bursts, that's diverticulosis, and that can be really dangerous because now you have a rip in your intestinal tract. And that usually requires surgery, some sort of resection of the intestinal tract. The best thing to do for diverticulitis is to avoid things like strawberries that contain those little seeds, things that can irritate diverticulitis. But the best thing is the fiber. Taking the fiber scrubs everything out, cleans everything out, keeps everything moving, and drinking plenty of water. So anytime you do have a diverticulitis attack, water. You want to keep flushing this stuff out because it will flush out and it'll reduce the inflammation and it'll take that out. The other thing is, if you have pain and inflammation, remember anything that says itis, I-T-I-S, means inflammation of. So bronchitis, inflammation of bronchial tubes, appendicitis, inflammation of the appendix, diverticulitis, inflammation of the diverticuli. So if it says itis and it's inflammation, you should take the Plus Relief, because Plus Relief is not only pain relieving, it's analgesic, it's also anti-inflammatory. So it's certainly going to help with inflammation and removing that pain and inflammation. Okay. Okay, someone's asking, as a newcomer, what's the best products to start with? Of course, Cell Defender is the tip of the spear. Everyone starts with Cell Defender. Get on the Cell Defender right away. We do recommend the Avini Bundle or the Avini Bundle Plus. So the Avini Bundle is the Cell Defender, the Fiber, and the Z-Immunity, which is an amazing set of products. You can't find anything like that anywhere else in the world. And then the Avini Bundle Plus includes the Nano Silver. So that's really a great place to start. Whoever did recruit you, is it Dorina? Yeah, Dorina, whoever did recruit you, whoever came in, talk to your upline, talk to these people about what activation pack you need, how to really get started. And especially if you have your own health issues, your own genetic issues to deal with, they can steer you in the right direction. I have someone who's concerned about depleting their already low sodium and potassium while using Cell Defender. That's a great question. I've answered that a lot, but there was a concern because remember, this particular zeolite, clinoptilate, has been used in animal feed for over 80 years. And particularly was used in animal feed to prevent aflatoxicosis, which is damage from fungus that could hurt the livers of animals. But they found out that the animals were healthier when they were fed clinoptilate. And so in the 70s, they asked that same question. I know I'm removing toxins and heavy metals. Am I removing healthy nutrients from these farm animals because I'm feeding them clinoptilate? So there were these huge studies conducted in goats, cows, and sheep, in ruminants. And they particularly looked at their nutrient levels, their calcium, magnesium, potassium, phosphorus, sodium, all these metals that are necessary for health. They looked at before and after they were fed clinoptilate or not. So this was placebo controlled, although there's really, it's controlled. Let's not say placebo controlled because there's no placebo effect in animals, you know? So they looked, and the fascinating thing is not only did the zeolite not deplete those nutrients, they actually had higher nutritional status than the ones that didn't get the clinoptilate. And we know the reason for that is that heavy metals and toxins compete for absorption with the good stuff. So if you're blocking that absorption, if you're taking out those toxins, you actually make more room for the good stuff to be absorbed. So the Cell Defender is not just a detox product, it's a nutritional enabler. You get more value from what you're eating. You get more value from your supplements because you're using this product. So it is a nutritional enabler. Let's see what we got. Okay, so some people are just giving comments. Any medication I need to be concerned about while taking Avini? I am a native Hawaii, a heart patient, overweight with lots of aloha. So yeah, so mahalo, Dorina. Mahalo nui loa. I have lots of friends in Hawaii. So really no, there's really no contraindications. I do warn people taking Cell Defender that if you are in chemotherapy, if you're a cancer patient taking a platinum-based chemotherapy, you should stop taking the Cell Defender for a day before and 2 days after your chemotherapy rounds. Because it will remove the platinum and it will invalidate the chemotherapy. And not only do I say that, it's now been proven in a published study that was just published last year, where they looked at people using oxaliplatin and used the zeolite, and they found that people used the zeolite and did exactly like that. So it stopped at 1 day before, started 2 days after, that they greatly reduced incidences of the side effect of that chemotherapy, which is chemotherapy-induced peripheral neuropathy. So the patients in the zeolite had no neuropathy when they were using the zeolite. And that was just, some average natural zeolite. That wasn't my product. So you can imagine that my product is much, much, much more effective, and you're going to see better benefits. But there's really no contraindications between our products. Just think of most of our products as food. So if a medication is meant to be taken with food, it can be taken with the fiber. If it's meant to be taken apart from food, then just take it apart from our products. Okay. You can see I'm just getting used to these contacts. It's so weird. But I do look different without the glasses, right? How many types of zeolites are there? Is the clinoptilate the only one you chose to work with? I mean, I talk about that in my lectures. There are 49 different naturally occurring zeolites and literally thousands of synthetic zeolites, man-made zeolites. And the zeolites are made specifically, the synthetic ones, to separate certain things. So there's a charge differential, there's a pore size made to as a molecular sieve to absorb different things. We chose to use clinoptilate for a variety of reasons, mostly because of traditional use. Clinoptilate has been used in traditional medicine for over 800 years, recorded use. And today there's whole societies, geophasics in India, that eat it every single day as part of their diet. So its safety profile is complete. It has GRAS status, generally recognized as safe in the United States. So that's why we chose to use a clinoptilate. And it just so happens that because of the charge differentiation and the pore size, it's really, really, really good at taking out heavy metals and not taking out the good stuff. And that's why it's been used so much in animal and human nutrition. Oh, someone says they ordered my book several weeks ago, but I haven't received it. I don't sell the book. It's been out of print since 2011. So wherever you ordered it from, I don't know where you ordered it from. You shouldn't be able to order it from any of my websites because it's been out of print. But if you did, let me know and I'll figure it out. I don't even know if I have any copies left because everyone keeps taking mine and my wife gives them away. So let's see. What are your thoughts? Okay, what are your thoughts about using hair tissue mineral analysis? I notice and treat health conditions. Well, there's more than just hair analysis. I love testing, and people who talk to me, I want to see your blood work, I want to see your MRIs, I want to see PET scans and spectra scans, I want to see urine analysis, and it's not just one test. I want to see every test. I want to see tests over time because any single test is just a snapshot. So if I can see your last 3 blood tests, your last 3 urine analysis, I can look for trends over time. So the more testing, the better. Mineral hair analysis is another good test. What are you excreting? What is your body getting rid of? And we actually did that in the coal miner study. We had them shave their chest and looked at heavy metals that were excreted through the hair that was in the hair. And then we had them shave their chest again 4 months later so we could see the difference. And we saw that there was like heavy metals the first time and no heavy metals the second time, which said that all the heavy metals were being pulled into the zeolite and out through the urine. There wasn't enough heavy metals in circulation to get into your hair. So that was really an elegant way to look at that. So mineral hair analysis is fine, but it needs to be with everything else. I think that's it. Okay, let's see. Are there topical benefits of silver spray? Yes, absolutely. In fact, I've always loved topical silver. So if you have any kind of issues, if you have any kind of infection, even pimples, spray the silver on, it works wonders. My kids, I said this on stage, my kids used to get molluscum all the time, which is a horrible skin virus. It looks like a whitehead, and you get bunches of it, highly contagious. We had this one kid that lived up the block that always had it and gave it to my kids. I said, please stay away from the molluscum kid. He kept reinfecting my children, but we had a topical silver solution, just ionic silver in a foam that worked wonders. You put it on and the stuff was gone in a day or two. So yes, it's topical silver has always been great. And of course, our nano silver is incredibly efficient, can be used topically and internally.
So before you leave the silver thing, I wrote in Inner Circle this morning, when you go internally with silver, that's when Avini Nano Silver becomes so important.
Yeah.
Because topically it doesn't matter so much, but internally having Avini Nano Silver, which is 200 atoms in a sphere protected by silver oxide tetrahedrons, it doesn't get too big and become colloidal. It doesn't get too small and become ionic. It's the Goldilocks size. It's just right. So it's really important. Why is our silver important? When you put it inside of you, then it becomes super important, the differences.
Yeah, that's a big difference because any silver is fine topically. Our silver is the only one I would recommend internally.
So is it kind of like a liquid crystal, the silver and the water? Could you say something like that when you're talking about tetrahedral?
No, what Cliff said, what Chip said, and there's a picture on the website. what they did is one of the biggest issues with silver nanoclusters is they break apart, become ionic silver. And you want to prevent that from happening because ionic silver can be dangerous internally. It can cause immunosuppression. But what they've done in this case is they've used electrolysis to actually create a monolayer of silver oxide. They oxidize just the surface silver. And he says tetrahedron because that's exactly what it is. It's one silver surrounded by 4 oxygens in a little pyramid shape. And that's what forms the silver oxide. That's
okay. I thought was maybe it was kind of sharing oxygen with a water molecule or something.
No, it's just protecting it. It protects the surface. So it has all of the same silver abilities, but it can't fall apart. It can't become ionic. And so so that those silver nanoclusters can now go and they get absorbed by bacteria, they get absorbed by viruses, they get absorbed by fungus, and they kill everything we don't want in our bodies, but they leave our bodies alone and can't cause any immune system issues.
It is technically a colloidal suspension, but it's so small it's not going to fall out. It'll just
Exactly. It says 7 to 10 nanometers. At that size, it's going to stay in solution. Okay, I think I got everything.
Well, thank you. This has been awesome. I love the little extra at the end too. So
my pleasure. Chip got me started. He wound me up. So guys, thanks for having me. It was a pleasure and a half. We are catching up with orders as Trim Science comes in. We are bringing production in-house. So in the next couple of weeks, we'll be making all the products, including the Trim Science. We are also working on the extruded products, the new pet products, the Cell Defender for cats and dogs, and Plus Relief for cats and dogs. So that we're working on that to be out in the next couple of weeks. I know we're making updates to our catalog. There's lots and lots. There's new videos that are being made that we actually recorded before the summit for the app. So there's going to be a lot of content coming down the road. So lots and lots and lots of exciting things happening.
it's a good time to be in Avini. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much, guys.